Guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Frostbuddy. It is drinkware engineered to keep your beverages exactly how you want them. Whether you're heading out for an adventure or just powering through your day, Frostbuddy's flagship product, the Universal Buddy, replaces the need for multiple can coolers by fitting virtually every 12-ounce and 16-ounce can bottle you drink, sodas and seltzers to coffee and sparkling water, all in a single versatile design. Constructed with high quality double walled stainless steel and thoughtful features like a flexible silicone lid and a tapered shape that fits most cup holders, Frostbuddy keeps drinks cold for 12 hours and hot for up to 6 hours. So you get consistent temperature control, whether it's an iced drink on a hot afternoon or a hot coffee on the drive to work. Built to last, field tested for durability, and backed by a 30-day return policy, Frostbuddy makes everyday moments, from tailgates and beach days to backyard cookouts and commutes, more enjoyable. Going over and click the link below and use promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase when you visit our friends over at frostbuddy.com. And when you use that promo code SSS15. Are you tired of spending upwards of $7 to $8 on coffees that are full of sugar and high in fat? Well, look no further than Chike Nutrition, the brand redefining what coffee can do for your day. Chike Nutrition combines the rich, familiar taste of real coffee with 20 grams of high-quality protein and the energy of 2 shots of espresso, giving you both fuel and function in every scoop. Available in a variety of crave-worthy flavors like mocha, caramel, vanilla, and many more, Chike delivers smooth, cafe-style iced coffee that mixes instantly with water or your favorite milk, with no clunky blender or complicated prep needed. Each serving is designed to be low in sugar, packed with protein, and loaded with real espresso, so that you can get a sustained energy boost that helps power your morning, workout, or busy afternoon without the crash that comes from sugary coffee drinks. Whether you're looking for better nutrition in your coffee routine or a smarter way to stay energized and full longer, Chike makes it simple. Scoop, shake, sip, and enjoy. If you want to take advantage of the new year and get in the best shape of your life, click the link below and get yourself 10% off of your first order over at ChikeNutrition.com. Okay, we're finally actually going to talk football for once. No more BS, no more crap that we got to deal with whenever it comes to the situation around the Brendan Sorsby era. That ship has sailed. We no longer have to talk about that. Now we can talk about actual football. Let me tell you, I was at work earlier today, and this came to mind. And I read an article from our friend Ari Wasserman from On3 Football. And I saw a couple of things that he kind of talked about when it came to Lane Kiffin's proclamation of what he said during his press conference. Lane is bought into this program. And it is hard not to... I don't... He says this: I don't know how fast it's going to happen, but we're going to win a natty. We're going to have the teams and the rosters back to the way they were playing when they were great. It might not be today, but it's going to happen. It's balls. It's got some balls. That's some balls behind it, bro. Make no mistake about that. But we're going to get into it later on down in the show. Nonetheless, guys, we are live. This is the Southern Sports Scene. Welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you all do us a favor. Hit the like, share, and subscribe down below. Make sure you turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, posting a video or posting a short here on the Southern Sports Scene. Every live show, as always, guys, brought to you by our good friends over at FrostBuddy. Going over to frostbuddy.com, use our promo code SSS15 to get 15% off your first purchase. That is code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. We also want to thank our friends over at Chike Nutrition. We thank you to our friends there. 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of sugar in every scoop of Chike Nutrition. If you want the best in iced coffee, use our friends over at Chike Nutrition. With 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of sugar, you can get every day started with a very healthy, very hearty cup of coffee. And as always, we like to partner with our good buddies, and we love to partner with our good friends over at Buzzer. Make sure you download the Buzzer app today. We are live on Buzzer as well to bring you the best when it comes to sports media without the BS that follows with it. Make sure you guys do us a favor. Hit the like and share if you guys want more from us over at the Buzzer app. Download the app today and get started and see if you can become a verified creator. So Lane Kiffin made a very, very bold proclamation. And I apologize for the lighting here. But Lane Kiffin made a very bold proclamation that it's hard not to get behind. And you look at the roster that LSU is building out in Baton Rouge. So this is going to be more towards my side of the college football space. I'm from Baton Rouge. I haven't really been familiar with what LSU has done because I've transitioned to full-time college football. But it's hard to deny that there's a lot of LSU fans that have asked me about what they expect from Lane Kiffin in year one. And it's a big ask. When you look at this program, there's just so much that this team is building and so much that they've done in the span of 6 months since Kiffin left to become the full-time head coach there than there had been during the Brian Kelly era in 3 years there. It's beyond unbelievable what he's been able to do. You bring in so many top transfers. You bring in a lot of talent that hasn't been seen in Baton Rouge from the portal in a very long time. You could say last year was a pretty good portal haul. Guys, this year is even better because you know who you're getting. And it's not like they took Ole Miss's entire roster and took it to Baton Rouge. No. This roster is really freaking good. You just seem to find a former 5-star there, a guy that was an all-conference guy here, an underrated defensive back that could be a first-rounder here. There's just so much that LSU got from the transfer portal that, again, how do you not look at this roster and say, this is a top 10 roster in college football? But are they going to be that when it comes to the preseason? I think they'll be just outside the top 10. I think they'll be at 12 or 13. I think that's a reasonable place for them to be. But this is going to be interesting for LSU in 2026. You brought in Sam Leavitt from Arizona State. I'll give you my honest thoughts on Sam Leavitt. I think that this is a new era for him because this is going to be a new territory. He had to rely a lot on Cam Scadaboo during his first full year as the starting quarterback. Then he deals with injury this past year and throws a lot of footballs to Jordan Tyson. And it just seemed like he was relying very heavily on a guy like him. I don't not like the fact that he did that, but here's the thing. He's got to be more comfortable throwing the football. I don't think you ever saw that whenever he was at Arizona State. Have we seen flashes of him and how good he can be? You damn right. The guy has incredible arm talent, but he's a wild card, in my opinion. Because when you look at him play, you will see plays that he makes that just blow you away. He'll see him get out of the pocket and throw 40, 50 yards down the field off of his back foot, and it's impressive. There are other plays where guys clearly covered. There's no way you should throw the football there, and yet he throws there and it nearly gets picked off. So what does that tell you? Are there flaws in his game? Yes. Are there things that he could do to improve in his game? That's why he's paired up with Charlie Weiss Jr., arguably one of the best play callers in college football. Charlie Weiss Jr. has always had this stigma of, oh, it's just because he's with Lane. No, it's not. He's actually a really good play caller. Crazy as it sounds. And the thing about it that is, if you want to get a glimpse as to how good of a play caller that Weiss is, guys, look no further than what he did in the postseason. Look at what he did. It was impressive. Go look at the game. Go look at that Georgia game. That was probably his best called game of his career. The best called game of his career. Bottom, hands down. Look at what he did to that Georgia defense. That incredible capability when you pair him with a good quarterback, which is what Trinidad Chambliss is. And look at what he can do. He did some really, really good things this past year. It's impressive. And so, you know, there has been a lot of people that are going to continue to say the same things about Weiss. And here's what I say. Let him say it. Honestly. I think it's good. Because you know what that means? You get the regular season to prove your doubters wrong. Just saying. But Lane Kiffin has said that he is promising that LSU will win the national title within 2 years. As crazy as it sounds, it's not unrealistic. Now, has he won a national title yet? No. But here's the difference between now and when he first took the Ole Miss job in 2020. The odds are stacked in his favor. He's in a market that will do anything to win. He has a fan base behind him that is wanting him to win. And the more noise that he makes, the bigger the target becomes. I think that's a good thing if you're Lane Kiffin. Because that's what you want. I think that's what you really need, in my opinion. You know? Crazy as it sounds. We'll get to our SEC power rankings in just a few minutes. By the way, I'm just looking at some of the comments too. That was just made. Oof, Lucas, I'd love to have you on and discuss this. I think I have a problem with your number 1 in LSU should be higher than 7. Oof. Nothing will charge a comment section like an SEC power ranking. Shout out to the boys over at 3 Tech Pod. Top 4 are fair. I'd bump Bama down behind. Oklahoma to start. Missouri is going to surprise our people. Auburn probably won't improve overnight. They're better in 14th. We'll see. We'll see. I can promise you this, though, is that, listen, I'm not saying that Auburn's going to be bad. Guys, There's some teams above them, above Auburn, though, that have a lot more talent and a better schedule compared to what Auburn has. I can promise you that. But regardless of that, back to LSU. Look at what they got in the portal. You get one of the best offensive tackles in the country in Jordan Seaton. And I think he's been raw talent the last 2 years with Colorado. Now I think he gets a chance to really develop into an elite offensive tackle and a future franchise player in the NFL. You get a guy that I got to talk to during the Sugar Bowl in Princewell Mielen, who is quick off the football, man. I think people are going to... I would not be surprised if this is one of the best defensive ends in college football. Todd Benefield, a guy that a lot of people have said this was the only DB that LSU went after, and he was the best one. I look at his film, and I'm just amazed at what I see. I'm amazed at the speed that Benefield has. I'm amazed at what type of player that he is, how rangy of a safety that he is. There's a reason why he was arguably the best defensive player in the Mountain West Conference for Boise State. Last 2 seasons, he's been incredible. He's a tackling machine, and he's a guy that is going to get a lot more attention as the season goes on, potentially for a Jim Thorpe Award win. I would not be surprised if he's in the running for that. Just saying. You better watch out for him. Because he's damn good. Really damn good, dude. He's going to be a freaking stud in the middle. You look at some other guys that you got in Trey Wilson. Here's my thing on Trey Wilson is that there's so much talent that Trey Wilson has. The problem is that he's been dealing with injuries. He hasn't been able to see the field, and I don't know if he will this year. But you bring in guys like Jace Brown that was elite coming out of Kansas State and absolutely speed demon at 6 foot, 179 pounds. Jackson Harris, however, is the guy that I think a lot of people need to pay attention to. Jackson Harris is one of those guys that I don't know what it is. I just like what he's been able to do. He's just an elite player, dude. He's one of those guys that is a house call every time he touches the football. Jackson Harris was a guy that I think could have gone bigger. Initially committed to Stanford, didn't get a whole lot of playing time, broke out last year at Hawaii, almost 1,000 yards receiving, ended up at LSU. Is it the talent gap? No, because look, that Timmy Chang offense that was run at Hawaii, I know it's not like what Lane Kiffin's offense is going to be, but man, you look at how that offense improved overnight. Come talk to me again when we talk about Hawaii as a potential college football playoff team by the time we get to October, maybe in November. I have them as a dark horse for the playoff in the Mountain West. They're going to be really good this year. Everywhere you go, and when you look at this portal class, there's a reason why it's the number one play. This is the number one portal class. There's obviously been some questions about TJ Daugherty. Everybody's saying, oh, they tampered with him. Do I have the evidence that he did? I have no idea. I'm assuming there's been so much that has been said about the tampering. Dabo said one thing about the whole Luke Farrelly situation. I don't know where that's going to go. This is just a situation that's just all over the place. And realistically, we don't really know what's going to happen with that whole tampering situation. Is it going to affect Farrelly? Ferrelli's eligibility. If that's the case, what's going to happen with the lawsuits that could come behind it? Because I do expect something like this to potentially happen. And if that's the case, if there's nothing at all that happens between now and the start of the season, are there going to be NCAA investigations following the year that could potentially affect Ole Miss? We don't know yet, because guess what? If Ole Miss is the one that gets attacked for this, then it's like trying to find a scapegoat, which is ridiculous. Because if you are so stupid enough to know that tampering has been going on for the last maybe 50 years of recruiting, come on, bruh. It doesn't even have to be with a guy that's already committed to a school, that's already signed the dotted line. How many times have we had these conversations? We've had them quite a bit, haven't we? Regarding this whole tampering BS. Am I wrong? Tampering has always been an issue in college football. The reason why it's so big now is it because we're talking about a guy that signed on the dotted line in Luke Ferrelli to go to Clemson and then was enrolled in classes and then decided to drop out, back out of his NLI, and then end up at Ole Miss. That's why this is such a big ordeal. Give me 1 second. But again, how many conversations are we going to have about this? Because this is one of those things that unless something's changed, which I expect something to happen by the time we get to next offseason in college football, it's going to continue to happen. It's inevitable. You and I are not that stupid, okay? We know that this bullshit's been going to happen, and it's going to continue to happen. And I feel like a broken record every time I say this. If things continue the way that it's going when it comes to the way that NIL is being structured, the way that everything else is being structured, come on. What do you think is going to freaking happen? You and I are not stupid. Tampering is going to continue to happen in college football, whether we like it or not. There's always going to be a loop around when it comes to these rules. Guys, LSU is going to be a very talented team this upcoming season in 2026. Will they be a playoff contender when it's all said and done? You bet your ass they will. Will they eventually make it to the playoff? I have no idea. You got to go to Vaught Hemingway, and I don't think there's love lost between these two in Ole Miss and LSU. I can promise you that. Texas A&M returns Marcel Reed, who just whipped your ass last year in Tiger Stadium at night. So, think about this. LSU, the first 4 games of the season, you get Clemson at home, you get Louisiana Tech at home. I expect you to win both of those football games because I think Clemson's dead in the water at this point. Louisiana Tech is Louisiana Tech. You should easily get a paycheck from there. At Ole Miss, okay, where the Magnolia Bowl hasn't been this heated in so long. We haven't seen an LSU-Ole Miss rivalry that hasn't been as good as we've gotten the last 4 to 5 years of this game being played. It's been impressive, to say the least. So you have that. And then the very next week, you return home to play Texas A&M. And like I said, Marcel Reed whipped your ass last year. Is Marcel Reed still a good quarterback? Yes. Absolutely. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. Do I think that he struggles with turnovers? Yes. Here's going to be the difference, though, between last year and this year for LSU. You have an offense that you can rely upon. Have we seen it yet touch the field? No. Are we sure that it's going to be better than last year? Oh my God, yeah. Because you have a competent play caller, and by the way, you have a healthy roster for the time being. And you spent money where you needed it the most, a la offensive line, a la running back, a la a quarterback. Come on. Let's be real with each other here. All right. Guys, this team is uber talented. Make no mistake about that. But this is a team that has to back up everything that we're seeing on the field. Make no mistake about that. Texas A&M at home. You go to Kroger to play Kentucky. I think you should win there. Shouldn't be any issues. Mississippi State at Auburn. Again, shouldn't be any issues. And you get to a really tough stretch where you play Alabama and Texas at home. Texas obviously returns Arch Manning. Alabama's still Alabama. Alabama has been a thorn in LSU's side for a very long time. And understand this. Since the game of the century in 2011, following that game, LSU has 2 wins against Bama. 2. 2019 and 2022. The average margin of victory has been over double digits. LSU has been shut out 3 times during that stretch. LSU has also scored over 30 points in 3 games. I understand the last 2 games, or the last 2 years actually, with Kalen DeBoer have been different. Scored 28 with Jaden Daniels, who was a Heisman Trophy contender, or won the Heisman Trophy, was a Heisman Trophy contender at the time. Last year, they had a really bad offense, scored only 9 points. Or, excuse me, that was with Nick Saban. They had 13 their first year against Kalen DeBoer. They had 9 this past year. This is a talented team, but they have to prove it on the field. I have heard the same stories over and over and over and over again about LSU. They better prove me wrong on the field. And in the last 2 games, you go to Tennessee and you go to Arkansas. Neyland's still a tough place to play. Just saying. So, big year for Lane Kiffin and company. Let's see if they can back it up. You know who else needs to back it up? USC. Here's what USC did in the offseason. In the transfer portal, I think that there's a lot of guys that you could say they have a lot of dudes that you could argue are going to be really, really good in the portal. They only got 9 guys into the portal. 45th in college football in the transfer portal, though. So you return a good bit of guys that have shown potential this past year. By the way, 2 of those guys that you got was a long snapper and a punter. So you got 7 guys. Really? But I have seen a lot of people be very, very high on a guy like Tucker Ashcraft. Excellent blocking tight end, big and powerful tight end that is going to be big time. He's a guy that's going to get some really big hit carries. He's going to continue to, or not get big carries. He's going to get monumental snaps in this offense, and I think they're going to use him properly. That's what I've heard. So we'll see what happens there. But USC has a very favorable path to get to a college football playoff. But guys, that last game is just way too important. I think the victory bell this year is going to define everything for USC in 2026. I believe it. And if you watched our State of the Program series, when I talk with college football, when I talk with Sam Recker of College Football with Sam, you know exactly why. You know exactly why I felt that way about this UCLA team. This is a make or break year in 2026. You bring back two running backs that were really good in Wayman Jordan and King Miller, both of which averaged over 6 yards a carry. Jaden Mayava is one of the most efficient quarterbacks in all of college football. He's a really good player, but guys, he has got to get good in the right moments. He has not shown up in big plays. You went out last year, DeAnton Lynn decided to retire. You went out and got Gary Patterson. Am I convinced that USC is a college football playoff contender? No. I am not. Until they prove me wrong. Because how many times late in the season have we seen USC look decent or be in the driver's seat for a playoff and then utterly collapse? I've seen it a lot with Lincoln Riley as their head coach. And I want to read off a couple of stats that I made known a couple years ago. And I don't remember where they were. Let me see. But he said 2 months ago, he said that USC had entered championship window. And listen, I don't know, man. We've heard so many different things and so many crazy scenarios that have had a lot of people questioning whether or not Lincoln Riley is a good coach and whether or not Lincoln Riley has been the right fit for college football. So I'm trying to find the one where I made this post. This was a while back. Trying to see. Anyways, I don't really know where it is, but it's whatever. Anyways, the record speaks for itself when we talk about Lincoln Riley. USC has not been a very good team, and they haven't had a very good record over the course of the last couple years since expansion really since 2023. You go 8-5 that year with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. There's been moments where USC has started hot and then things just quickly spiraled. out of control. Excuse me. Anyways, 2023 is a good example. You start the season undefeated. You're 6-0. You end up getting blown out by Notre Dame. You lose a heartbreaker to Utah. You barely get by Cal, and then you lose 3 of your last 4, but you end up winning a Holiday Bowl. And you go from contender, and then you're out of the playoff picture. I think Lincoln Riley has a losing record in Big Ten play since the 2022 Pac-12 championship. Well, really, in conference play. This has not been a very consistent team. Okay? What has been their downfall the last couple of years? It was defensively for the first 2 to 3. Then you go out and get D'Anton Lynn this past year, and they improve. They show signs of improvement. They improved in 2024, despite how they were against teams like Notre Dame, where they had moments to win. You know, they would lose one possession games where really they should have been so much better. Then you had this past year where, again, similar scenario, turning points in the game made all the difference for USC having a big season, and you compare them to a team that's always going to miss out on expectations. Straight up. Illinois is a great example. Lose on a field goal. Notre Dame is a big example. Had moments to win that football game. Oregon, second half momentum switched to the side of the Ducks after that punt return for a touchdown. And then losing in overtime to a TCU team that really you should have had easy. You should have taken care of your business, but Jada Mayava turning the football over, man. What can I say? Up by 10 in the fourth quarter, and they can't finish a game. You have almost 400 yards of offense, but you have two turnovers. Can't have those, man. You just can't have those. So, see what happens. King Miller comes back. Wayman Jordan comes back. 2 guys that I think you can rely upon in the offense. There's a lot that you're going to lose. Gone is the Biletnikoff Award winner. Gone is your All Big Ten tight end. Gone is your other wide receiver that was elite. You bring back Tanook Hines. You brought in Terrell Anderson from North Carolina State, who showed flashes of being a speed guy. Defensively, this is a good team. This is a really, really good team. Front four has a lot of depth. Jakeem Stewart, I'm expecting to have a pretty good season this year. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get, but man, he's a really, really damn good football player. Because there's a lot that is nice about his game that I am just a huge, huge fan of. A massive fan of. And listen, they're going to be really freaking good this year. But guys, this is a good football team on paper. And then you go look at the schedule that USC has. Follow along with me as we read through the schedule. And this is going to be tougher than what people think. You should start 4-0 in the month of September. This non-conference schedule / opening game of Big Ten play is garbage. San Jose State, Fresno State, and you play Louisiana, which is UL Lafayette. By the way, shout out to my Cajuns. The Cajuns and I have a pretty good relationship for the most part. Shout out to our friends over at Rage and Review, the boys that made me a big fan of UL athletics. So, but anyways, it's a garbage schedule. I don't know why this is so stupid. And then you go to Pitt's Getaway, which you should handle business against Rutgers. And then you get into a nice stretch. You play Oregon and you play Washington at the Coliseum. You should be 5-1. I don't know if you're going to be able to get past Oregon. I think Oregon's offense is too much for your defense to overcome. Then you get into the good stuff. At Penn State, at Wisconsin, Ohio State, at Indiana. If you can get past, if here's the thing. If you are able to take care of Oregon at home, if you can get, I'll be fine if you have 2 losses to Ohio State and Indiana, because I'm expecting them to be 2 top 5 teams at the end of the day. Maryland at home, you should have no problem. The victory bell. And this is what I heard a lot of people saying, and what I'm hearing from around college football is that the victory bell is going to determine if USC is a playoff team or if UCLA can get to 8 wins on the season. I would also be very open to see this. This could be the game to see who has the better record between the two. If USC loses the victory bell, nobody's seed is going to be hotter in college football than Lincoln Riley's. Bottom line. Nobody's seat is going to be hotter than Lincoln Riley's if they lose this football game. And guess what? This is a damn good UCLA team. This is a better UCLA team than we can imagine. Bob Chesney, what did Bob Chesney do in the offseason? He just brought over some dudes. Defensively, I think UCLA is going to jump from one of the worst defenses in the Big Ten. I think they'll be a middle-of-the-pack defense that can do just enough to win them enough football games to where they're in contention for an 8 or 9 win season. Straight up. That's what I believe. You can disagree, but it's what I have noticed. Just saying. So, look, USC has to be able to get over this hump this year. If they don't, then it's over for them. It's over for the Lincoln Riley era. The Jade Mayava era is going to end. In 2027 could be the curtain call for Lincoln Riley in Southern California. All right, SEC power rankings time, and I know a lot of people love this one. So here we go. This will be fun. So I know a lot of you had lots of issues with my power rankings, and I'm already looking at some of the comments that I was looking at. But let me see. When I look at the comments, some of them say that they have a problem with number 1. Some of them say that, okay, the middle of the pack is looking weird. There's a lot of underrated stars at the end of the day. But we'll see. But right now I have Mississippi, for starters, I have Arkansas at 16. I think Arkansas is going to be the worst team in the SEC this year. Ryan Silverfield, God bless him. That was not a smart hire by Arkansas. They went out and got a mediocre group of 5 head coach that, look, his resume is really good. I'm not denying that that is the case. I think Silverfield is in a really interesting position to be a pretty good a pretty good play caller for the most part. But again, what are they getting from a guy like that. As good as Silverfield is, there were a lot of better candidates out there. You had Alex Golish in your backyard, literally on the dotted line. I don't know what happened between him and Hunter Yurachek. And my question is, who has Memphis beat during this time? Memphis has 2 10-win seasons. I'm all for that. That's great. They beat Tulane in 2024, back when Tulane was a regular contender for, or really, well, when there were still contenders for a college football playoff. They beat Iowa State in 2023. They won 11 games in 2024 and beat West Virginia in the Frisco Bowl. And then this past year, they were a top 25 team. They beat USF, and then they ended off the year on a 4-game losing streak. So you go out and hire the coach that you lost to after you blew a 21-point lead going into the fourth quarter. I mean, what sense does this make? I'm not a fan of the move. I wasn't a fan of the hire. And I think look, God bless Ryan Silverfield. He's always going to be a group of 5 coach. This just screams another Sun Belt Conference type of coach. This screams another Sun Belt Billy. Remember the jokes on them and how they're going to continue to go? Because Billy Napier is always going to be a favorable Sun Belt coach. Number 15, I have Mississippi State. Look, the seat is hot for Jeff Lebby. And listen, I think at the end of 2026 or 24, I think you should have fired Coleman Hutzler. Now you bring back Zach Alley. I do think defensively you're going to improve a little bit. But listen, Kamario Taylor is a very good football player. But is he going to fit in the air raid version of offense that Jeff Lebby wants to run? I have no idea. Because Jeff Lebby I don't believe that Jeff Lebby has worked with a dual threat quarterback like what Kamario Taylor is. Now, he has worked with Dylan Gabriel for the longest time. He worked with Dylan Gabriel forever. Ole Miss in 2020 and 2021, he worked with, who did he work with? Oh, wait. He worked with Matt Corral. I mean, it's not like Matt Corral was a dual threat quarterback either. Well, I guess he was for the most part. But I mean, you're talking about a much different athlete when we're talking about Kamario Taylor. So I don't know. Adam Ritter, our buddy that is a regular here, also a follower of us from South Carolina Gamecocks Athletics, says, I don't know if you said anything or I missed it, but your thoughts on the Carolinas' new baseball coach. Kevin Schnall is going to bring a lot of swagger back to South Carolina baseball. South Carolina is going to be really freaking good. And I would not get your hopes up on an automatic, like, you're going to host a regional next year. I don't know if that's going to happen. But listen, I think you have the pieces to be really freaking good this year. I think South Carolina is already building through the portal. I think they got some really good names. Listen, this was a team that still had a top 5 transfer portal class in the country for 2026. This was still a really good football team. Okay? Make no mistake about that. And look, I understand that you're still going to lose some guys at the end of the day. But listen, You got so much talent this past year that ended up getting wasted because it wasn't being developed properly. When you have all of that, what does that tell you of where your program was headed? That's why you got rid of Pawpaw. And listen, people were coming after me and they said that things were going to get, that we should be waiting till the end of the year. Oh, we don't have the money to get rid of him. Honestly. He also says, I trust our AD. Now, what is the key? Or what? Now, the key is what he will do if football and men's basketball have a down year, and will he make a move? Oh, but no, make no mistake about this. Men's basketball is going to be the worst in the SEC again this year. Okay, I forget what you hear in the portal. Lamont Paris is a sucky basketball coach. I'm telling you right now, they're not going to be good this year. I can promise you that. This is a bad basketball team. Football, you get to a bowl game, Shane Beamer is going to be safe this year. Which I see a scenario. I see a scenario where Shane is staying for another year and South Carolina ends up 8-4, 9-3. I consider that a good year for them. Why do you think we kept Paris? Because it's a first year with a new AD, honestly. And that was his first full athletic year. But the response to basketball wasn't as strong compared to the response when it came to baseball. South Carolina basketball has not been very good. The history is not the same as baseball. When you compare South Carolina baseball to basketball, it's like comparing a freaking Amazon gold chain to an authentic gold chain from a jeweler. This is a two-time national champion in college baseball. A team that has a lot of history over the last 15, 20 years. How many aces? How many guys have you seen that came through South Carolina that are legends in college baseball? That went to Omaha and did a lot of magical things while Ray Tanner was their head coach. Funny how the guy that leads them to 2 national championships is also the one that drives to them at the end of the year to being one of the worst teams in college baseball in the span of 14 years. It's crazy how that works out. By the way, would you rather have kept Mark Kingston now? I think either way, I think Mark Kingston would have been fired. But listen, if you were to go back to, it's easy in hindsight to say, okay, we probably shouldn't have fired Kingston, especially knowing what we got with Palmineri, knowing how bad of a team that we ended up being. That team was a joke. He also says that I think football finishes 7-5. Key is offensive line. Running game has to be very good. I agree with all of that. I'm definitely seeing that as their ceiling. Mississippi State, I expect them to be at 15. I just don't see this team really improving much. Kamario Taylor's a really good player, but I think his skill set would be better off elsewhere. Miami is a very, very hot topic, is a very hot target nowadays. You see what they were able to do this past year with Carson Beck, what they did with Cam Ward. I think depending on what Lenore Sellers does this year, I would expect Kamario Taylor to be on the short list to transfer somewhere. I would expect Miami to be at top of the list when it's all said and done. 14, I have Auburn, and I know a lot. I know a lot of you have been talking about Auburn. Mitch. But no, our guys at the 3 Tech Pod said that Auburn is not a 14th. It's not the 14th best SEC team right now, or is not a bottom 3 SEC team, I should say. But Auburn has to find ways to win football games in clutch situations. I think Alex Golish is a really good coach, but there's a lot of talent that left Jordan Hare. There's a lot of talent that is not going to be back on the Plains, that is now entered the portal and is elsewhere. Cam Coleman's gone. All right. There's a big, big couple of years, bro. What did he send me? But listen, looking at this schedule of what Auburn does, they get Baylor in a neutral site. They get Florida at home, at Tennessee, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, at Alabama. Those are losses that are inevitable to watch. LSU at home, I don't see them beating. Florida's a toss-up. Vanderbilt, we'll see what happens there. That could be a toss-up game. But there's a likely scenario where Auburn does start 4-0. But we'll see at the end of the day. Do we play Missouri or Tennessee? Let me take a look. I think we play Tennessee. I do not know if we play Missouri. Yes, we play Tennessee. We do not play Missouri. Yep. I think Missouri, in my opinion, should be a permanent rivalry with South Carolina. I think that's a better rivalry compared to other SEC teams. Like, I mean, I guess you could say Georgia's a rivalry. I don't know, man. I just don't see a scenario where Georgia is really a good rivalry for us. It just always ends up so one-sided, and it's been one-sided the last 4 years. We have our upsets here and there, but I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, though. 2012. Don't even get me started on 2012. But that's a video for another day. Auburn, I do see a scenario where they could start 4-0. But realistically, I think there's more talent when we talk about Florida. I think that they end up 3-1 by the time we get there. 3-3, 3-4, 3-5, 4-5, 5-5, 6. I think they'll be a 6-6 team at the end of the day. They just don't have the talent, man. They just don't. They lost so much through the portal that it is hard to recover from that point. Number 13, I have Kentucky. And I was contemplating whether or not I flip-flop Auburn or not, but I stuck with my gut and I said Kentucky. I think that Kentucky is very underrated when we talk about teams this year in the SEC. I think we're really sleeping on what Will Stein and company is going to build in Lexington. They're really good. I really believe that this is going to be one of those teams that just finds a way to win a football game. Every now and then, they're going to win a game that they don't expect to win. And I see Kentucky doing that this year. Whether it be they go to Willie B and beat South Carolina, whether Alabama goes to Kroger, they get a big win there. Whether it be they go to Missouri or Louisville comes to town and they get a win there. There's going to be a win there in between that is going to define Kentucky's season, and they're going to end up bowl eligible. They're going to be better than we expect, guys. Number 12, I have Vanderbilt. Listen, Jared Curtis in year one is going to be very interesting. This team is again, Tim Beck is a really good offensive play caller. The first 3 games of the season are going to be interesting. That North Carolina State game is really, really intriguing. Crazy as it sounds. CJ Bailey against Jared Curtis is an underrated matchup. CJ Bailey's one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, and in my opinion, has the ideal height and weight of a first-round quarterback. He could be really good, steadily improving his draft stock. We'll see what happens with Vandy in year 3 of a great stretch, or year 6 of Clark Lea. Arguably one of the best turnarounds in college football. Vanderbilt has returned. Well, really, I wouldn't necessarily say they've arrived. They're better than what people think. They're going to be really good. So, we'll see. But this is a tough schedule for Vanderbilt. Going to Jordan-Hare, going to Auburn, going to Georgia, playing Ole Miss, at Kentucky, Alabama, at Florida, Tennessee. I think this might be a down year for Tim Beck and company, or not Tim Beck, for Clark Lea and company. Very likely could see them 4-8 or 5-7 at the end of the year. But again, Vanderbilt's always a sneaky team, so we'll see. Missouri, I have at 11. Look, this is Missouri. I feel like we have a good understanding of the expectations year after year with Missouri. They can be really good. They can win 9 or 10 games every other year, but their floor, I mean, it's a 7-5, 8-4 team. And honestly, their floor, their ceiling is the same as their floor. And the median is kind of the same as well. I know that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and I'm trying to make it make sense. But Missouri is this team that just, I don't know, man. I don't know if they just give me the ick, or it's just, I don't know. Missouri is just intriguing to me. And so, again, they have a good schedule. Border War early on is going to be interesting in Lawrence, Kansas. I don't think it deserves the primetime slot, though. Florida, Texas A&M at home, at Ole Miss, at Georgia. Not a whole lot of tough road games, honestly, but you get home games against Oklahoma, Texas A&M. Again, this is probably a 7-5 team when it's all said and done. Nothing really too fancy coming from Missouri at the end of the year. Austin Simmons is a good quarterback, but who's your play caller? Oh, it's Chip Lindsey. Can I ask a question? How in the hell does Chip Lindsey still have a job? How? Does anyone realistically think that Chip Lindsey is a good play caller? It's a heavy run-the-damn football team, which fits what Missouri is going to do this year because you have two of the best backs in college football in Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy. Really the best 1-2 punch combo in college football, but regardless. Which, by the way, they still have Zyshawn Edwards, too, is really good from Houston Christian. I would watch out for them. But apart from that, what do we really expect from Missouri from an offensive standpoint? Who do you have at receiver? What is your defensive line? What does your defense look like? Corey Batoon's got a lot that he's got to replace. He's got one guy on the front seven that he has returning. They have a lot of transfer portal guys in the back seven. But apart from that, that's it. Number 10, I have South Carolina. High ceiling for them, very, very low floor too. What does Lenore Sellers look like, man? Because look, Lenore's gave me a freaking headache last year. He's such an athletic freak, but here's the problem. He is so damn timid with the freaking football. And I know. Why did I just freak out right there? Because I got to tell the truth about a guy like him. I pray to God. I pray that Kendall Briles is the answer that Lenoris needs. Because, dude, this offense has a lot of potential. I think you got a lot from the portal at offensive line because you lost all 5 starting offensive line, which, by the way, this was the worst offensive line in the SEC this past year. If you don't want to take my word for it, go look at PFF. Oh, by the way, I watched every single South Carolina game last year. They were dog water. Offensive line was horrible. That first game of the year pretty much set the tone for what that offensive line was going to look like. This team sucked. Absolutely horrible, putrid, and disgusting. I don't care if you don't like what I have to say about this South Carolina offensive line this past year. This team was bad. That was a bad offensive team. Defensively, I don't expect a whole lot to change. I know you lost Jalen Kilgore, who's now in the NFL. I get that you lost some guys from in the secondary. Him, Brandon Cisse are both gone. But listen, Jalen Kilgore returns. I expect him to have a big year. You got some transfer portal guys at receiver that I think can make some big noise in Nitro Tuggle. Other guys that I think could eventually break out at the end of the year for South Carolina. Listen, this team is going to be still very good. And whether or not we consider them as an 8-win team at the end of the year, that's up to you. I think 7-5 is their ceiling. Or not even their ceiling. I think 7-5 should be what you expect as a South Carolina fan. We'll see what happens, though, man. Because I don't know. Number 9, I have Florida. I don't know why I have Florida this high. I don't know what it is. But I just like the way that Buster Faulkner runs his offense. Buster Faulkner's a good offensive play caller. And you know what he does so well? He's smart. He's a smart play caller. I think with this schedule, it is favorable. It's stupid how favorable this schedule is, bro. You don't play Miami. You don't play any real tough opponent except for Texas and Georgia and Ole Miss. Everything else just seems 50-50, and that includes Oklahoma because it's at home. That includes Auburn, even though it's on the road. This can very well be a 9-win football team. But it all depends on what the quarterback situation looks like. And if you want to learn more about Florida this year, go check out our State of the Program with my guy, David Soderkist, who I hope Dave is watching. So we'll see. Number 8, I have Tennessee. I think we know what Tennessee's ceiling in Florida is every year. I've already said it this past year. I've been talking about it for about 15, 16, or 17 months at this point in time, following the national championship in 2025. I've been talking about this for a very long time, and I've been pretty confident in saying that this is a Vanderbilt team that I just don't see a very high, or not Vanderbilt. I just see Tennessee as always being a middle-of-the-pack SEC team. Not to mention the fact that despite what you got on defense, you bring in Jim Knowles, who's a great defensive play caller. You have a lot of issues. It just seems like there's always issues when it comes to Tennessee. 2 years ago, or last year, it was the Nico Iamaialava situation where his dad is outspoken and things go crazy from there. Boo Carter, who was a problem this past year, ended up skipping out on fall camp and ends up in the portal, makes a lot of noise there. Arian Carter, though, you return, which is a massive get for you. You lose one of your best running backs in Peyton Lewis, but what do you get? You get a former walk-on quarterback in Ryan Staub, who, are you going to commit to him? Are you going to commit to bring in the dogs? Come here.
We're going to get pizza.
Okay. Tennessee is going to be just another middle of the pack team. You brought in Amari Campbell and Chaz Coleman from Penn State. There's been a lot of issues with Chaz Coleman lately. That Georgia Tech game is going to say a lot for this year. If Tennessee ends up 8-4 this year, I think there's going to be conversations about whether or not that a guy like Josh Heupel is going to stay in Knoxville. So we'll see. Number 7, I have LSU. We already talked about them briefly. This is a 9-3 team for sure. Can they steal a game against Alabama or Texas or against Ole Miss? We'll just have to see. Oklahoma, I have at 6 because, look, this is a playoff team this past year, guys. This is a really good team. Okay? Oklahoma is still Oklahoma. Brent Venables got his ass off the hot seat for the moment, but is it going to cool down and he's just going to ride the wave for the rest of the year? Or is it going to be another down year for them? I don't know just yet. John Mateer returns. What is he going to look like this year? If you want some more information on that, go check out our State of the Program series on the Oklahoma Sooners with our guy, Eddie Radosevich from Inside Sooners. Or from Sooner Scoop, excuse me. Which, by the way, all you guys that are commenting on my Oklahoma video saying that I wasn't good enough for Eddie, then why did he respond? So, anyways. Alabama, I have at 5. Why do I have... Now, this is going to be one that a lot of people are not going to like. Why do I have Bama at 5? Guys, this is still a good team. Okay, I get it. You lost some dudes to the portal. You do, however, return Ryan. Ryan Grubb is still going to be a good play caller. I get that you lost essentially your entire linebacking core in Lawson and Nikhil Hill-Green and Justin Jefferson. You lose Damani Jackson. You lose LT Overton. You lose Jaden Roberts and Tim Keenan. And obviously, you lose arguably the best offensive lineman this past year in Caden Proctor. But what did you get from the portal? You got a lot of guys that are better than what people expect. You got in Devon Tompkins, who is going to be developed really well. Caleb Woodson from Virginia Tech is an absolute stud. Got to watch him last year in Virginia Tech whenever South Carolina played him, and he was all over the field. Ty Haywood is a really good offensive lineman from Michigan. He's going to be developed really well with one of the best offensive line coach in college football, in Adrian Clem. A lot of people were really high on him, and they love what he brings to the field. You're going to lose your co-offensive coordinators in Nick Sheridan and Jamarcus Shepard. Jamarcus Shepard's now at Oregon State. Sheridan is the quarterback's coach at Oregon State. This offensive line room is going to improve. And I get it that you had essentially a preseason Joe Moore Ward offensive line this past year. I get that. Guys, this team is still really good. I believe in the development of whether it's going to, whether it be Austin Mack or whether it Kalen Russell, whichever one happens, whichever one they go with, I think they're going to be developed properly because you have a great play caller that has been around some of the best quarterbacks in the game. They're going to be just fine. You bring back a running back room with Daniel Hill that should be fully healthy. E.J. Crowell, who has gotten a lot of attention lately. This wide receiver room is really freaking deep. It's stupid how deep this team is. Ryan Coleman Williams, can he catch the freaking football? We've seen him break out, but is he a one-game wonder? Is he a consistent playmaker? And is he a top receiver in the SEC? I think we're going to find out really this year, the first half of the season. Lotzier Brooks is going to be back. I think we saw a little bit of him this past year. Noah Rogers and Cedarian Morgan are also going to be expected of doing some really good things. By the way, our State of the Program series on Alabama is out with our guy Wyatt Fulton. So, guys, if you want to get involved in that and if you want to see some more in there, go ahead and take a look in that one. Bray Hubbard is going to be one of the best safeties in college football. Make no mistake about that. You bring in Jaira Edwards, who is a freaking monster, who can play all over the field. Going to be a star type of player, involved in the run game, involved on the edge, and he's going to be a dominant football player. Keon Sabb and Xavier Brown are two guys that you are going to see break out in 2026 on the defensive backfield. And then you bring in Yanze Pierre, who is all over the field, dude. Yanze Pierre is going to be a freaking nutcase. Number 4, I have Texas A&M. I think Marcel Reed is still a really good quarterback. You bring back Mario Craver, who was one of the best receivers in the country this past year. The number 2 guy with Casey Concepcion, and Casey Concepcion went in the first round. So what does that tell you about what A&M could do? Offensive line-wise, you've improved there. You've gotten some more guys to replace. Trey Zune is obviously going to be a big loss for them. Demetrius Crownover you have to replace. But I think defensively you're going to be safe in that department. Texas, I have at 3. It's a make-or-break year for Texas, too. We've talked extensively about the comments that Steve Sarkisian has been making lately. Are they going to be as good as we say they are? Are they going to be as good as they say they are on paper? Number 2, I have Ole Miss. Again, first full year under Pete Golding. Trinidad Chambliss returns. I don't care what people say about what Lane Kiffin brought to LSU. At the end of the day, I think Ole Miss is a better team than LSU when it is all said and done. And number 1, I have Georgia. They're the kings of the SEC for a reason. They've been on top of the SEC the last 2 years, and they've consistently proven it. Gunnar Stockton is the best returning quarterback second best returning quarterback in the SEC, in my opinion, behind only Trinidad Chambliss. And listen, Stockton is a freaking fantastic football player. Make no mistake about that. Can he get over that hump and lead Georgia back to a national championship? We'll just see when all that happens. That's going to be it for us here today, guys, on the Southern sports scene. Make sure you all do us a favor. Y'all hit the like and share button down below. Turn on the bell notification so that you are notified whenever you hit that subscribe button. As always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate your support. Stay blessed. Don't stress. Y'all have a great rest of the week.